Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on that like button if you like my video. Also click on that notification bell. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm so glad that you are here. I understand you probably have all the skills, experience, education, the right personality, the right background, but somehow you're not getting through that job interview. Now, going through the job interview is just like any skills, and it is my responsibility to teach you this skill in this course. I will guide you through the most important tips and all the basic questions that a hiring manager asks you in a very simple language. My name is Imran Afzal, and I have been helping my students land the job of their dreams since 2010. I could help you get the job of your dream as well. So what are you waiting for? Let's go ahead and enroll and ace that job interview. Hello everyone, I'm so glad that you are here. I understand you probably have all the skills, experience, education, the right personality, the right background, but somehow you're not getting through that job interview. Now, going through the job interview is just like any skills, and it is my responsibility to teach you this skill in this course. I will guide you through the most important tips and all the basic questions that a hiring manager asks you in a very simple language. My name is Imran Afzal, and I have been helping my students land the job of their dreams since 2010. I could help you get the job of your dream as well. So what are you waiting for? Let's go ahead and enroll and ace that job interview.
Hello, beautiful people. I have a small request. I want you to please spend a couple of minutes with me to go over this course syllabus. And then I want you to decide whether this is the right course for you or not. This course I have divided into 10 different sections. Section 1, I wanted to cover like an introduction, sell your skills, how you could support your resume, interview format, what you should bring to your interview, and the importance of practicing. Section 2 will cover the basic and common interview questions, such as tell me about yourself, why do you want this job, why are you leaving your job, why should I hire you, or where do you see yourself in 5 years, your weaknesses, your strengths, and your greatest accomplishment. Moving on to section 3, we'll cover most important interview tips such as score success in the first 5 minutes, talk about numbers, telling the story, and keeping that beautiful smile of yours. Be precise, don't derail yourself into a different topic. Understand the job requirement. Know the name of the people that you're going to be meeting with. Do not make an answer if you don't know. Understand the question and assess yourself throughout the interview so you know you stay on track and you're keeping the attention of your hiring manager or the hiring panel. Moving on to section 4, behavioral question like what is your greatest failure and what did you learn from it? Describe a time when you were unable to complete your work. Tell me about a successful presentation you gave, or tell me about the toughest decision you have had to make. I skipped through a couple of questions, but I trying to make you understand the type of question that we're going to cover. And in behavioral question, we're going to learn a method of STAR, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. Moving on to section 5, which are situational questions. Situational questions are like, what would you do if your work is criticized? How would you handle a dissatisfied customer? Your manager assigned you a project with tight deadline. How would you handle it? What would you do in the first 90 days if you were hired? How would you respond to a stressful situation? So these are the type of questions are the situational questions. So I am covering every one of them and giving you techniques how you should answer these questions. Moving on to some of the technical questions, such as what was the last project you led? How do you keep up with the innovation? How would you market our product? What version of whatever the application that you're running? Now coming down to section 7, like compensation related question, and a couple of them are what are your salary expectation and bonus related questions. Moving on to section 8, which is your turn to get into the interview question, and that is you need to ask question. You have to leave on a high note. High note is very, very important. And you will learn about the high note once we get to section 8. And I tell you, 80% of the time it works and people will remember you if you leave on a high note. Then saying goodbye. What are the things that you have to leave with them? The goodbye, how good it has to be. Then moving on to section 9 after the interview. Follow up after the interview, update your skills and your resume, and learn from your mistake. Moving on to the last section, and that is about do's and don'ts. I want you to remember some of the things you should do, you should avoid, and to never give up. So that's what my syllabus is about, and now you decide whether this course will work perfectly for you or not. And I'll tell you one thing, you will definitely be able to ace your interview once you go through this course. So go ahead and enroll.
The usual interview format is pretty much the same. It doesn't matter where you are, which country you're living in, most of the interview format are the same. So let's start from the beginning. The way it's going to work is as soon as you go on site or as soon as you pick up the phone, you introduce yourself. If there are more people in the panel, everybody will introduce themselves. Then the hiring manager will actually start telling you about the company. Hey, Imran, thank you so much for coming in. And we are here at ABC Company. We're doing this and this, and we've been in business for maybe 20 years. We have increased our work, our production, and so has increased so much. So we're looking for someone who could come in and actually who's really good in, for example, documentation, who's really good at helping other person, who's really good at this software. So it's pretty much he will go over or she will go over on the job description that you probably already have been given previously. So very quickly summary, that hiring manager will go over it, and that's how the typical interview always starts. Now the third thing that the person is going to cover or hiring manager will cover is the actual format. Yes, they will. I would say all good hiring manager should give you a format. They'll tell you, hey, this is how the format looks like. We're going to ask you some question back and forth, some technical, some behavioral question, and at the end, we're going to give you the opportunity to ask question. Fair enough? Is that good? Yes. Then the interview starts. The very first thing and most favorite question always a hiring manager starts with is tell me about yourself, or tell me your background, or tell me how have you been working all these years, and tell me your past experiences. Whatever question that is being asked about that is basically what they're asking you is tell me about your experiences and how do you fit in this role. So you talk about yourself. So embrace this question. Take pride in this. And by the way, I have covered the specific tell me about yourself question in another video. So this question should not be more than 5 minutes. Answer it. Once that is done, then the technical interview starts. And you're probably thinking, hey, I'm not a technical person, meaning I'm not in IT or anything. It's not about that. If you're in IT, then they're probably going to ask you more pure technical related question. But regardless if you're in IT or not, there are technical questions. I'll give you a few examples of the technical questions. Like if you're using like any tools or software or any application that you're using, if you're in accounting, maybe you're using some kind of software, right, to actually manage the books. So they probably ask you, hey, what's the software that you're using, or what's the version? Another would be like, what is the latest book that you have read on law and order if you're going for, like, let's say, law firm? Or same thing, what do you think of, or how do you stay up to date with healthcare environment? See? Also, tell me how the internet works. It's very simple, basic question. Sometimes people do ask those people who are not even IT related. Then starts scenario-based question. That's same question and answer, but I have broken down into 3 different categories: technical, scenario, and behavioral. So second type of question, scenario or situational based question. Some of the examples are, what would you do if a customer said XYZ? How would you market our ABC product? Tell me about a time you had to make a quick decision. Or another one, tell me about a time when you had to act in a leadership capacity. See, these are scenario-based questions. Then moving on to behavioral questions. Some of the examples are, What are your weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why are you leaving this job where you are right now? What is one good thing that you like about this job which you have applied for? What is your biggest achievement in life? How did you handle difficult situations? See, these are all behavioral questions. They want to know how do you handle these type of questions. So some of these questions I have covered in my other videos as well. So please go ahead if you wanted to pick any specific question you wanted to learn how you should answer. Please check out my other videos. Now, after these questions, back and forth, answer, the hiring manager comes to the end. The conclusion is, all right, do you have any questions for us, Imran? Now, that's the time you should definitely ask questions. Now, please make sure asking questions that should be related to the job itself. For example, I could give you a quick example. Hey, let's say if I start tomorrow, how would you describe my day will look like? Something like that. So ask question, make sure you do at least 2 or 3. And then, of course, if you have to add anything to the end as a high note, hey, you know what? I think I'm a great fit for it because the person you're looking for, I'm the one, and I'll get the job done. Add that. And that's where the whole job interview ends. Again, to summarize really quickly, the hiring manager will go over company background, job description, and interview format. Then they ask you, tell me about yourself. Then they ask you technical questions, scenario-based questions, situational, and behavioral questions. At the end, they will ask you to ask them questions. And that's where the whole interview concludes. Practice, practice, practice. You have heard of this mantra so many times from so many people that anything that you want to do, you gotta practice for it. So no matter if you're going for a speech, you're going for a debate, you're going for a rehearsal, you're going for an acting, or any kind of things that you're doing, you have to practice before you actually deliver it. Just the same way, interview works. You have to practice the interview as well. Don't be a superhero and says, you know what, I'm just going to go into the job interview site and I'm going to start saying whatever that comes to my mind. That's not really a good idea. It's always good that you practice some of the common or basic questions before you go for a job interview. Now, a few things that I do want to share with you are what are the different methods or techniques that you could use to practice. Well, number one is that you should talk to a friend of yours or someone in your family to take your mock interview. So you could have some of the questions written down on a piece of paper and have them sit with you and go through the practice of taking the interview. You could just tell them, go through one question at a time and judge me or review my responses the way I would respond. They would know where you have to improve. Another thing which is I have found very useful for many of my students, and that is recording your interview. So when you're going for the job interview, you could record your responses before and listen to those recordings. Same way if you're doing a mock interview with your friends or family member, I want you to record them. All it takes is to take out your phone and start recording. Nowadays, it's so easy. You don't have to buy an expensive camera to do recording. Just pull out that phone and start recording. And when you're going to watch yourself on the phone being recorded, you're going to find a lot of mistakes that you could correct. And you would avoid those mistakes. And I bet you it would work. So please do take my advice and practice your job interview questions before you go for a job. Hello everyone. Going to the interview, it's like selling your skills. Think of it this way. You walk into a car dealership and the car salesman will try everything to sell you the car. That person will tell you how much horsepower the car has, the leather seats, the interior, the speed, how fast it goes, how fast it stops, all the safety features, right? all the things that entice you to buy the car. You have to sell your skills in the exact same way. So before you start selling your skills, you need to know what exactly the skills that you have to sell. You don't want to sell something that the person is not looking for, right? So maybe if you are going for a job, for an HR job, right, and they are looking for someone who could interview people, and you are trying to sell something else, they're not going to buy it. So sell something that they're looking for. So how do you know what to sell? Well, there are a few resources you could find out. One resource is that you go through the job description. You probably have the job description way ahead of your job interview time. So go through the job description line by line and find out exactly what they are looking for. Then I want you to talk to the headhunter or a recruiter or even the hiring manager or HR person and get more information about the job. What are the things that the hiring manager is looking for? What are the likes? What are the dislikes about the job? Also, do some company research. Maybe find out some of the information about the people who actually worked for that company before, or maybe for that specific department. Put down your list of things that you're going to be selling for. And then when the interview comes, become like a car salesman. I want you to sell your expertise one by one. Make sure every time they go through the interview, you have the opportunity, one this way or the other way, to add the skills that they're looking for so you could sell it. So remember, this is very important. Before you go for an interview, you have to think to yourself as a car salesman that you have to sell your skills as like a car. And I'm sure if you have that thinking in your mind, there won't be any problem when you go through your job interview. Good luck. Hello everyone. Going to the interview, it's like selling your skills. Think of it this way. You walk into a car dealership and the car salesman will try everything to sell you the car. That person will tell you how much horsepower the car has, the leather seats, the interior, the speed, how fast it goes, how fast it stops, all the safety features, right? All the things that entice you to buy the car. You have to sell your skills in the exact same way. So before you start selling your skills, you need to know what exactly the skills that you have to sell. You don't want to sell something that the person is not looking for, right? So maybe if you are going for a job, for an HR job, right, and they are looking for someone who could interview people, and you are trying to sell something else, they're not going to buy it. So sell something that they're looking for. So how do you know what to sell? Well, there are a few resources you could find out. One resource is that you go through the job description. You probably have the job description way ahead of your job interview time. So go through the job description line by line and find out exactly what they are looking for. Then I want you to talk to the headhunter or a recruiter or even the hiring manager or HR person and get more information about the job. What are the things that the hiring manager is looking for? What are the likes? What are the dislikes about the job? Also, do some company research. Maybe find out some of the information about the people who actually worked for that company before, or maybe for that specific department. Put down your list of things that you're going to be selling for. And then when the interview comes, become like a car salesman. I want you to sell your expertise one by one. Make sure every time they go through the interview, you have the opportunity, this way or the other way, to add the skills that they're looking for so you could sell it. So remember, this is very important. Before you go for an interview, you have to think to yourself as a car salesman that you have to sell your skills as like a car. And I'm sure if you have that thinking in your mind, there won't be any problem when you go through your job interview. Good luck. Support your resume. Now, before you go for an interview, I really want you to sit down, have your resume in front of you, and go through every single thing that you have written in your resume. I want you to understand every line. So go line by line and read it out loud if you have to. And make sure that everything that you have written is something that you do understand, you do remember that, or it's not just something you just copy paste from some other resume and you just put it in there. No. I could tell you that 70 to 80% of the hiring manager, they are going to ask you questions from your resume. So your resume is something that will tell them everything about you. It's your profile, it's your description. Before you even meet them, your resume is something that gets shortlisted and they'll say, oh, you know what, this guy or this gal looks very impressive. I would like to set up an interview with that person. They go through your resume and then they'll start asking you questions from the resume. So you are the author. You are the person who actually have written that resume. So please, my advice to you, before you go for any job interview, you need to know everything that you have written in your resume. So that is something that I would say, support your resume. This piece of paper, you need to know what you have written. If they ask you anything from the resume and you wouldn't be able to support, it's going to look so bad and most likely not going to get that job. They'll find out right away that you're the person who actually did copy and paste from somewhere. So that was my today's advice. Please heed to it and hopefully you'll get the job that you're looking for. If you have any questions, let me know. Hello again. Let's talk about the things that you should bring to your job interview. Now, maybe your job interview is on the phone or on site. So some of the things that I'm going to cover might apply to the on-site, and some of the things will still apply on the phone interview. So very first, most important thing is that you need to bring your resume. Yes, make a hard copy of your resume, and you should have at least, I would say, 4 to 5 copies, because you never know, maybe you're going to be meeting one person or maybe 5 people or more. So at least you should have enough copies to give it to them to go through the interview. Also, please bring a pen and a notepad so you could write down the notes, or maybe while the interviewer or hiring manager goes through the job description, that's the opportunity, that's the time to write down what that person is looking for. Now, a lot of people do bring a tablet, iPad, or a laptop to write those. I would advise against that, because the way you could write it down in your own handwriting, you will remember it, why you wrote it, and what reference that you have to give it to during the job interview. Also, it's not a really good practice or a good idea that you have like a laptop open while people asking you a question. So definitely a no for a laptop. Now also, please make sure you bring all those things together in a backpack. A lot of people just carry around a resume on their hand and they actually walk with that. Maybe you might have a folder that you could put it in. Great. If not, please don't carry it loosely in your hand. Put it in your backpack or briefcase. Also, if you're a kind of person who will go through a lot of talking, and if you're a person who is not into too much talking, and while you talk, your throat gets dry. If you're that type of person, I know everyone has a different way of talking, everyone has a different personality. So if you're a person who get thirsty or might cough, if you think during your interview or you're talking, please do bring a water bottle. You could ask for a water during the interview, but I wouldn't advise that you ask a hiring manager, hey, can you give me a glass of water? I mean, there is nothing wrong with that, but now you're going through a professional background experience of yourself, and there's a professional interview being conducted, and going through, hey, get me a glass of water, it doesn't really look professional. So bring a bottle of water with you. Also, some people might sweat. Sometimes they're nervous. So don't forget a napkin or tissue paper. And the last thing, and the most important thing, is please do not forget to bring your positive attitude. What that really means is when you actually walk into the office for that job, or when you pick up the phone for that job, you got to have this feeling in you that you will get the job. That's the positive interview. When you have the positive attitude in you, that will bring a confidence in you, and it will be a lot easier for you to answer the questions that they have for you. Good luck. Hello again. Let's talk about the most favorite question that every hiring manager would love to ask, and that is, tell me about yourself. Now, a lot of people take this question and get intimidated. They get scared. They get nervous. Now, I don't want you to do that. I want you to take this question as an opportunity to explain it, what you know, what the skills you have. I want you to hold your shoulders high and look him in the eye and answer that question with full confidence. Because let me tell you this is the only opportunity you're going to get in the entire interview process where you could tell the person about everything about yourself, where you could make yourself shine. That's a moment for you to feel proud. So take that as an opportunity. Let me put it in a way that it will be a lot easier for you to understand how you should answer this question. I have broken down this in 5 parts, or you could say 5 categories or 5 pieces. The first category is quick introduction. So let me go through all of them real quick first about these 5 pieces. One is quick introduction, second is experience, third one is education, fourth one is personal interest, and the fifth one is how you fit in this role. So coming back to the first one, quick introduction. In this introduction, you have to talk about what you really are. Let's say if you're an engineer, you're an accountant, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you have to say that I'm a lawyer, I'm practicing for so many years. I'm a system administrator and I've been working as a system administrator capacity for these many years. So also say about the number of years. Then you have to say a quick summary about your skills. You know these things, you have worked in these things, and you have been working for that many years in these skills. So if that job is more specifically for system, let's say office administrator, very simple job, right? So you've been working as an office admin for so many years, but here are the skills that you have under your belt. Then go to the next category, that is about the actual experience. Always start with your existing job. Talk about your company. If you're working for company ABC, talk a little bit about what your company does, how many employees they have. Are you really proud of the company? You should actually say that you feel really great working for that company. Then you have to talk about your day-to-day job there. What do you really do? Don't be tedious or boring about your day-to-day job. Talk about some exciting things that you do. Then while you go through your every experience, please make sure you mention all your accomplishments. Anything you have done for company A, anything you have done for company B. Talk about your quantifiable facts, like anything that you could put in a number or quantify. Hey, I've worked for 5 years and I tell you I increased the productivity 50%. I've worked so hard, I improved the process that I have reduced the cost by 25%. I've been working in this company with 5,000 people and I support 2,000 of those employees. See all those numbers, talk about those numbers. If you have to put those numbers in a story, talk about the story. Tell anything that can be explained in a story. I'm sure everyone has some kind of story at your job. We all go through issues. We all go through disasters, whether it's office related or outside. There are hurricanes. There are attacks or wars or so many things, or the blackouts that you go through. And I'm sure during those times you probably work very hard. Talk about those. Then go back to your prior experience. Go back to the prior experience. Go this way. Then we go into the category about education. Talk about your accomplishment when you were in school. What do you do? You are bachelor's, you are master's, you are PhD, what kind of degree you have, and whether you have a high GPA, cum laude, mega laude, any kind of achievement or accomplishment or any rewards you have. Talk about your certifications. Then talk about your personal interest. Now, a lot of people say, hey, don't talk about anything of your personal or anything about your hobbies. I would say you should, because that somehow the interviewer can relate something with you. So I always say, you know what? I love watching Seinfeld. I love watching sports, more specifically soccer. I like to read articles that has something to do with the technology. I like to read some of the books. See, when you talk about these really quickly, don't go more than 10 seconds or 20 seconds. When you talk about that, the interviewer might relate something with you. Hey, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned it. I love that show too. Hey, what about that show? See, it becomes some personal interest in that. Then the last thing is, how do you fit in that role? Once you explain everything about yourself, last thing is, you know the job description. Now this is the time to tell your hiring manager, hey, you know what? I know you were looking for this person, and based on what I have just explained you, all the things that I have went through, I tell you, I am the right fit for this job. I could do everything that you have listed in your job description. And that's how you end, by saying that, tell me about yourself. See, I put it in a so easier way. All you have to know is remember these different pieces, 5 categories when you have to answer this question. Number 1, quick introduction. 2nd, experience. 3rd, education. 4th, personal interest. And 5th, how do you fit in this role? I hope this lecture will really help you. If you have a question, let me know. Hello again. Let's talk about the most favorite question that every hiring manager would love to ask, and that is, tell me about yourself. Now, a lot of people take this question and get intimidated. They get scared. They get nervous. Now, I don't want you to do that. I want you to take this question as an opportunity to explain what you know, what the skills you have. I want you to hold your shoulders high and look him in the eye and answer that question with full confidence. Because let me tell you this is the only opportunity you're going to get in the entire interview process where you could tell the person about everything about yourself, where you could make yourself shine. That's a moment for you to feel proud. So take that as an opportunity. Let me put it in a way that it will be a lot easier for you to understand how you should answer this question. I have broken down this in 5 parts, or you could say 5 categories or 5 pieces. The first category is quick introduction. So let me go through all of them real quick first about these 5 pieces. 1 is quick introduction, 2nd is experience, 3rd one is education, 4th one is personal interest, and the 5th one is how you fit in this role. So coming back to the first one, quick introduction. In this introduction, you have to talk about what you really are. Let's say if you're an engineer, you're an accountant, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you have to say that I'm a lawyer, I'm practicing for so many years. I'm a system administrator and I've been working as a system administrator capacity for these many years. So also say about the number of years. Then you have to say a quick summary about your skills. You know these things, you have worked in these things, and you have been working for that many years in these skills. So if that job is more specifically for system, let's say office engineer, office administrator, very simple job, right? So you've been working as an office admin for so many years, but here are the skills that you have under your belt. Then go to the next category, that is about the actual experience. Always start with your existing job. Talk about your company. If you're working for company ABC, talk a little bit about what your company does, how many employees they have. Are you really proud of the company? You should actually say that you feel really great working for that company. Then you have to talk about your day-to-day job there. What do you really do? Don't be tedious or boring about your day-to-day job. Talk about some exciting things that you do. Then, while you go through your every experience, please make sure you mention all your accomplishments. Anything you have done for company A, anything you have done for company B. Talk about your quantifiable facts, like anything that you could put in a number or quantify. Hey, I've worked for 5 years and I tell you I increased the productivity 50%. I've worked so hard, I improved the process that I have reduced the cost by 25%. I've been working in this company with 5,000 people and I support 2,000 of those employees. See all those numbers, talk about those numbers. If you have to put those numbers in a story, talk about the story. Tell anything that can be explained in a story. I'm sure everyone has some kind of story at your job. We all go through issues. We all go through disasters, whether it's office related or outside. There are hurricanes. There are attacks or wars or so many things, or the blackouts that you go through. And I'm sure during those times you probably work very hard. Talk about those. Then go back to your prior experience. Go back to the prior experience. Go this way. Then we go into the category about education. Talk about your accomplishment when you were in school. What you do? You are bachelor's, you are master's, you are PhD, what kind of degree you have, and whether you have a high GPA, cum laude, mega laude, any kind of achievement or accomplishment or any rewards you have. Talk about your certifications. Then talk about your personal interest. Now, a lot of people say, hey, don't talk about anything of your personal or anything about your hobbies. I would say you should, because that somehow the interviewer can relate something with you. So I always say, you know what? I love watching Seinfeld. I love watching sports, more specifically soccer. I like to read articles that has something to do with the technology. I like to read some of the books. See, when you talk about these really quickly, don't go more than 10 seconds or 20 seconds. When you talk about that, the interviewer might relate something with you. Hey, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned it. I love that show too. Hey, what about that show? See, it becomes some personal interest in that. Then the last thing is, how do you fit in that role? Once you explain everything about yourself, last thing is, you know the job description. Now this is the time to tell your hiring manager, hey, you know what? I know you were looking for this person, and based on what I have just explained you, all the things that I have went through, I tell you, I am the right fit for this job. I could do everything that you have listed in your job description. And that's how you end, by saying that, tell me about yourself. See, I put it in a so easier way. All you have to know is remember these different pieces, 5 categories when you have to answer this question. Number 1, quick introduction. 2nd, experience. 3rd, education. 4th, personal interest. And 5th, how do you fit in this role? I hope this lecture will really help you. If you have a question, let me know. What are your weaknesses? A lot of people look at this question and say, oh my God, they're asking about my weaknesses. What if I tell my weaknesses and I don't get the job? Or something that I say could backfire. Well, there might be chances that it could backfire, but you have to know what you are saying. So let me make it very clear. There are 2 types of responses. There are 2 types of weaknesses that you have, and something that you should avoid and something that you should mention. Number 1 is the personal weaknesses. 2nd is the weaknesses that is related to your work that could be improved. So stay away from the personal weaknesses. You don't want to say, hey, my personal weakness, I do get angry really fast. You trust me, this will backfire and they will take it as a negative on your profile. So you don't say that. You don't want to say, hey, you know what? I come to work late. That's my weakness and I'm working on it. No, you don't want to say that, and you don't want to say you work. They don't really want to know that you come in late, right? That's your personal thing, personal weakness, so don't mention anything about it. Always include things that are related to your work and that you do find those work-related weaknesses and that could be improved easily. So let's talk about, first of all, weaknesses that you should not say or should not mention. Few of them that I have written down right here on a piece of paper is that you should not say are, like I already mentioned, that I get upset really fast. I come to the office really late. I don't like to work with others. I have to be more respectful to others. These are all your personal things. I have to stop smoking while I'm at a job. Don't say these things. Now, what you should say and what are the actual weaknesses that are work related. Some of them are, I get a little annoyed when projects don't meet deadlines. That is perfectly fine. Even myself, I get annoyed because I have done all the work on my part, and now because of a few other people, the work didn't get completed. And I get agitated, and then the deadline is being pushed out, and it impacts the entire team. So that agitation, that annoyingness is valid, but again, you work as a team, so you're going to try to calm this down. So that's a weakness that you feel, and you're working on it. Another one is, I should be delegating more tasks instead of taking all the responsibilities. A lot of people have that problem, and I've seen that when people have the opportunity to delegate a few tasks or work with as a team, but they don't, they just wanted to take on all the responsibility, all the ownership of the project. That's something can be counted towards weaknesses. And you could say that's something I'm working on it, and recently there have been projects that I have involved, I have delegated to others, and it works perfectly. Another one is I should be providing more constructive criticism. Like a lot of people are afraid to provide that because they think other people might get annoyed or take it in a negative way. So that's perfectly fine when you do provide criticism, critical ones, and as long as it has value. So that could go again towards your weaknesses, and then you could say that that is something I think I should be more into the providing constructive feedback. Another one is I need to improve my documentation skills. See, another one more toward your work. Focus more on technology. I need to spend more time on, let's say, if your skills are not good on Microsoft Office, you need to learn more on Excel or Word. You could say that I will be spending more time, and I do think that is one of my weakness. Another one is I am too detail oriented, or I'm a perfectionist. I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of you probably can relate to it. Oh yes, Imran is saying the right thing. I am perfectionist. When something is given, I go to all the way to the weeds. No, so you could say that as you're a perfectionist, and you could also say that I do feel that sometimes it's not good to be really perfectionist. Try to get things delivered on time, and that is something I'm working on. Another one is I should improve my leadership skill. I should learn another language if this job requires that and I don't have it. That's the weakness, I think. Also, I'm being too nice. I cannot say no to a lot of people when I really don't have time. So that is something I think I should start saying no and focus more on other things. So you see, guys, these are a lot of things that you could say. I told you what not to say and what should say. But there is one thing I should tell you before I leave, and that is the most important thing. And that is being honest. What it really means is all this entire list I gave you, don't just pick anything up and say, oh, you know what, Imran gave me a good list, I'm going to pick this up and say that. What I mean about honest is you should really sit down, maybe in a quiet room, and find out what your really weaknesses are when you work in a corporate environment. Find that out and see if you could really improve on that. When you're going to give that an honest answer, that would be the best answer I could tell you. When you're honest to your own self, that would be the best thing. Let's look at another common question, and that is, what is your greatest achievement or accomplishment? Also, someone might rephrase it as, what did you do in the past that you're really proud of? Now, you're probably thinking, hey, if I answer this question, I would probably have to show off, and I don't want to show off. Well, I know people love those who are humble. But sometimes when these type of questions are posed at you, you probably have to go one step further. You have to stand out. Now, remember why they are asking you this question. They're asking you because the hiring manager wants to know, what do you consider an accomplishment? They want to know, are you really ambitious? Are you really dedicated toward your goal? Okay, so I have a few tips for you that you should have in your mind before answering this question. And those tips are, I want you to be honest, of course. Don't make up anything if you do not have any accomplishment. But I'm sure everyone has some type of accomplishment in their life. I want you to try to stay with a recent accomplishment. Do not go more than like the ones that are like 5 or 10 years old. Put it in a story, the story that is like inspiring, that would interest the hiring manager. Stay on track. So if you're telling the story, don't go around don't go around beating bushes and telling a different story. Include keywords that are part of the job description. Also avoid accomplishments such as like, I learned how to make pasta, I have started cleaning my room, I've become sober. So you definitely don't want to mention that. I'm relatively good at most things. That's my accomplishment. So try to stay away from that. Now, what should be part of your accomplishment? I could give you a few bullet points on that, and the number one is on your personal accomplishment. You could say, I'm so proud that I bought a car for my dad. That's perfect. Now, just don't end it right there. Explain the story how you got it. Then also, I volunteered in a project for helping 1,000 homeless people. Beautiful. Another one is, I actually trained and completed a 20-mile marathon. That's definitely an accomplishment. These are your personal accomplishment. If you do not have any professional or work-related accomplishment, you could mention your personal accomplishment too, as long as they are along these lines. Let's look at some of the work-related accomplishment. I gave a great presentation at work to my leadership on a product. I have beaten sales target. I prepared and I have taught classes to my entire team. I actually became an employee of the month, and the reason I became employee of the month is because of so and so reason. These are the few things that you should definitely include in your accomplishment. I hope this video is very helpful for you. If you have a question, let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Hello again. Another favorite question of a hiring manager is, tell me, where do you see yourself in 5 or even 10 years? Well, the reason behind this question is because they really wanted to know that you stick around for that much time, because it costs companies a lot of money to hire a new person. So let's say if you are hired and a year from now you leave, it's going to cost the company a lot of money. Besides, they really wanted to know what your real plan is. So before you answer this question, I want you to know a few things that you should avoid. Number one is, do not mention about moving up in the rank. What that really means is, if a hiring manager is asking you this question, don't mention, I want to be the manager, I want to be a director, a VP. This is more of a threat to him or her. So don't mention, try to avoid that. Also, don't say that I wanted to run this place. I have had experience in the past where I have done an amazing job and I think I could do the same job here and I could lead the whole team. Try to avoid that. Also, I'm thinking of working 5 years on this company and then moving on. You don't want to say that. Don't make this company like a stepping stone to go to another company. Also, definitely don't mention that you are thinking of opening up your own company. So you want to work for yourself after 5 or 10 years. Don't say that again. If I wanted to hire someone to work for my company, I don't want him or her to leave after I have invested so much in that person. So try to avoid these things. Now, let's get into how you should answer. I want you to take a few minutes and think about this. Let's say if you are going for a job interview, whatever the job is, just close your eyes and think truly to yourself, where do you visualize yourself 5 years in this role? And then come up with the plan and real plan. And I'm sure you will find it if you really think it through. Because a lot of people get scared from this question and they make up this question. They try to gather information how to answer it. Don't do that. Literally try to close your eyes, visualize yourself, and think where you're going to find yourself 5 years from now in this role. So what I have done for you is I have put together stages where you should answer this question in a way as that progression toward starting the job and all the way to 5 or 10 years. So first thing first is start with the short term. You could say that firstly, when I get hired, I wanted to spend time to understand the environment. I wanted to know who the persons are, what are the different teams, who is who. I wanted to spend time learning the documentation, going through the documentation, your Wikipedia, anything that you have that will give me more understanding of how things work here. Then eventually, I wanted to fully support in my role. I wanted to fully support my manager. I wanted to have my manager rely on me and my team to rely on me. This is the first steps, so first couple of years I wanted to do. I wanted to build that trust the first couple of years. Then going on my third year, I wanted to be a person who is like a go-to guy, a go-to gal. I wanted the person who could get things done for my team or even for other teams. So the other teams would know right away, hey, this guy, Imran, is the guy who gets things done. Let's call that person. I wanted to start improving my training on my personal development. I'll take some training classes. I talk to my manager and I sit down and go over what other trainings I should take. Also, I wanted to start pitching in some ideas to my team or to my manager, how we could improve some of the things that we have in our environment. Of course, I don't want to make someone upset with my new innovative ideas. I wanted to take baby steps. Then coming to the fourth or fifth year, then I wanted to implement, actually by that time I would have implemented a few things that would have improved productivity one way or the other. Then I wanted to also train new employees at that time. Being spending 5 years, I want to be there that I could train new people or even train existing employees on some of the new technologies. I want to do some presentation for my boss or even higher leadership. I want to be the kind of person who provide guidance to the team and make few decisions if I get the power. And of course, if there is an opportunity of being a team lead, I will definitely take up on that. See, here is the progression. You put it out, you outline your 5 or even 10 years. This is the way that you should answer. It's not threatful to anyone, and they would see as a real welcoming way of you putting all these things together. So go over it, practice it if you have to, and if you have questions, let me know. And I'm really sure this will help you if you follow the exact same way as I did. But if you have your own ideas, be honest to yourself and present it that way. I see you in the next lecture. Hello again. Let's talk about another common question that a lot of hiring managers would love to ask, and that is, why do you need this job? They really wanted to know your answer, and based on your answer, they could assess whether you're a right fit or not. So be very careful when answering this question. So when I say be very careful, I mean there are a few things that you should avoid. Number one is do not say anything about your salary. Maybe you're getting a lot more money in this new job. Great, but keep it to yourself. Also about commute. If the new job that you're going for interview is saving you another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it's better not to mention that. Yes, if it's saving you 2 hours, okay, that could be a significant difference between your commute, so you could mention that. Another thing is number of hours. So if you're working on the old job 12 hours and now this job is going to give you 8 hours, try not to mention that because they're going to ask you more questions about it. Also, if you are getting a newer title, so let's say right now you're a system admin or an HR administrator, now you're getting a job of a manager or director. Great, that's amazing thing for you, but that shouldn't be the only reason that you want this job. So try to avoid that. It's also another thing is Very basic one is, hey, I got no job, that's why I'm looking for this job, or that's why I want that job. Okay, I know a lot of people who do not have a job or going through this tough time. For them, getting another job is everything. But you really don't want to mention this, hey, I don't have a job, so that's why please give me a job. No, you should actually ask yourself, if you're getting this job, what are the good things that you could put together? So now for that, what are the good things that you could put together? You have to go through a certain sequence. One is align your skills and experience with the job description or the job requirement. Go through them, see if you're really a perfect fit for it. So you could say, I do see this job a perfect fit for me because of such and such reason, and that is this, and that's all in the job description. Also, for those my college graduates or fresh entry-level people, for you could say that, you know what, I have actually gone through in my major, or in my education, I have covered all these topics. We've gone through this thesis, we've gone through this practical examples in my school. And I think that the person you're looking for perfectly fits this job role, and that's why I'm looking for the job. Another is, please do company research as well. Maybe the company does amazing. So let's say if you're going for Google, you don't really have to search. I know everybody wants to work for Google or Amazon or big companies like that, right? But every company has something to offer, I'm sure. Not all the companies are out there going to make you work like a slave. Every company has good things to offer. So find out what are those good things that they offer. And I'm sure you could find those a lot of things on company's website, or maybe different website about the company. Find that out. Maybe that will entice you to get that job. Another thing is being part of the team. So maybe you're going to be working with a team that consists of 5 or 10 people, and then you do see the great engineers or architects or management people, and working with them will give you the opportunity to learn more. Mention that. That's why I want the job, because you have the group of people who are so talented, and I would love to work with them, right? Another thing is, you do want to see yourself grow. So if you research the company, and if you look at the job description, and you notice, hey, this is the job I think I would grow in the coming 2-3 years, mention that. You could tell them, hey, I know your company is a small company, and in a small company, there's a lot of opportunity to learn. I could be doing a lot of things. I could wear a lot of hats. I could touch on every single thing. So that's why I want the job. Or if it's a bigger company with thousands of employees, you could even say that this is an amazing company. You guys have so many processes in place to do certain things. You have already gone through that, and I want to learn that. See, a lot of things that you could mention about why do you need the job. So I hope all these things will really help you. Good luck with that. I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone. There's so many things, so many tips that you could find. One of the good things that I have noticed, and that's something that I'm going to share with you, is not making up your answer. What that really means is, if the hiring manager or people who are actually in the interview panel, whether they are having an interview face-to-face or on the phone, if you do not know the answer to the question that is being asked, please say that you don't know. That is absolutely fine. Because if you do not know the answer, when you're telling them, sorry, I really don't know, can we move on or can we skip? That shows that you are honest and you do not want to make up stuff. That's number one advantage. Second is, if you really don't know and you are just making up, they could pick up right away that you are just adding the fluff to it and you really don't know the answer. Now, here's another thing. Now, probably people would think, hey, the question that is being asked, I do know, or I have actually experienced something, whether if it's a technology related, a tool related, or anything that you have touched in the past. But you really don't know a lot about it. Then how can you answer? Do you really have to say, I don't know? Or how would you approach it? That is another or add-on tip that I could give you. Now, the best way that I would answer is if someone asked me any questions, I would say I have an exposure on this in the past, but not to the extent that you have. This shows that you have touched something, but you don't remember. And also, you have given the appreciation to the other person who's asking you the question that you are an expert. See, you are winning on both sides. So that's my tip. I hope you really like it. I hope it really helps you. Talking about numbers or quantifiable facts. Do you know when I was going through my grad school and going through my MBA, they always talk about numbers. My professor have always taught me that numbers don't lie. And my job, wherever I'm hired, my job is to quantify everything that I work on. If I'm working on a project, how can I quantify that project? Meaning, how can I tell my boss or my leadership that going through this project, how many hours we have spent, what is the end result, are we going to save any cost? It's all about numbers. So that's the same tip that I'm going to give you, is when you go through your interview process, please make sure you go through certain numbers. Now, here are a few examples that I'm going to go over with you. And I'm going to start with people who are actually not in corporate world, people who are students or are entry level. They're just trying to start a career in corporate world. How can they quantify when they really don't have much to put together? I know these are the type of thinking we all have. Hey, Imran, I haven't worked in a corporate world. How can I put together any of the facts and numbers? Well, I tell you, everybody has facts and numbers if you are going through the interview process or will have an interview. And some of them that I want to share. Starting again with students and entry level, you could share some of the things like, hey, you know what? I spent 4 to 5 hours every day learning a new technology or in a learning workshop. So let's say if you have completed your education and you're going toward your certification, or you're taking any courses, or even you have taken some extracurricular activities that are actually going to help you for this job, mention that. Mention how many number of hours you've been spending. Another one, maybe you are going for your class, for the same class, and you're doing like 3 or 4 hours commute every day. You know, that shows your dedication. Again, 3 to 4 hours, that's a quantifiable fact. That's a number. Do bring it up. Another one, you probably worked 5 hours a day when you were going to school, and you were spending 8 hours a day in school. That is almost like 13, 14 hours. Again, that shows that you're a hardworking person, that you were spending not only your full time working for your school, but you also doing some part-time job. Another is, some college projects. So let's say a college project that involves a number of students, that involves number of hours that you spend, increase in the workload or decrease in the workload, and what's the end result. See, these are all the numbers. So these are the few examples I've given you that you could mention if you're a student or an entry-level person. Now, for the professionals who are or have been working in a corporate environment, what are the things that you could include? Such as anything that you have increased in number of customers. If you are in sales or you're dealing with a customer, do you know if the customer, the number since you started, has the customer increased? Maybe by 30%, 40%, find that number out. Not only that, let's say if you are in a company that deals with a customer, find out how many customers that your company deals with. You could mention, you know what, I'm working for a company that actually deals with 1 million customers. That's a quantifiable facts. Another one is if you're working for the company, and since you've been working for this company, the sales has increased significantly, maybe bring that number in, how much that sales had increased. Another one is, by the way, going back to the sales, if you have implemented any process that increased that sale, also add that. Another one is any number of hours spent by team members in meetings, and that resulted in like bringing down the actual number of hours when you introduce a new technology. Another one is system or data center migration that cut down the total cost in half. If you are in IT, you probably would know this exact mean. That's another quantifiable fact. And the last one I could tell you is anything like renegotiated vendor support contracts that saved so much money to the company. See, if you do not want to mention the real numbers, mention the percentage. You know what? When I joined this company that I'm working for, I actually renegotiated all the contracts that we had with the vendors, and that saved about 25% cost to the company. That shows the numbers. So anyway, these are the few examples I've given you. Of course, I don't want you to make up any of these up, but try to remember how you impacted or how you have saved the numbers or how you could pull those numbers and tell that to you. Being precise. What that really means is every time someone asks you a question, whether it's your hiring manager or people who are conducting the interview, I want you to be precise, not answering something that's not being asked. For example, I could give you a few examples so you will have a better understanding. First of all, if they ask you, for example, a very small example is if they ask you, what is 2 plus 2? I want you to answer 4. I do not want you to answer, hey, you know what? 1 plus 3 is also 4. Don't do that. Because as you're going to answer or as you're going to find more answers to that question, the hiring manager is going to pick more questions or going to make more questions from the answers you give. Another example I could give you, for example, what is your favorite tool that you use to manage some of the things? Everybody uses nowadays some kind of tool. If you are in health industry, law, IT, doesn't matter which industry you are, I'm sure there's some program that you're using on your computer. And that program is a software or a tool. When someone asks you, what is your favorite tool when you're running the business, you just give them 1 or 2. Don't go about giving them 4 or 5 different tools because they're going to ask you questions as you're going to answer or as you're going to lay out multiple tools for them. Another example, tell me a situation when you have to make a quick decision. If you tell them one situation and then you move on, great. But if you're going to tell them or give them more answers or more situations, again, they're going to make up more questions out of your answers. Another one, like let's say, for example, if someone asks you, have you ever worked with Microsoft Office Excel? Your answer should be, yes, I have worked with Microsoft Excel. And I have almost like 5 or 6 years of experience and I'm really great at it. That's it. Now, if you're going to add, oh, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned I know Microsoft Excel and I also know Word. I also know PowerPoint. If you're going to answer that, and let's say some people go one step further. Oh yeah, I know Microsoft Excel version 2019, 2013. They get into the weeds. Remember, if you're going to go into that detail, they will ask you questions onto that detail. And if you're not ready to answer, then you're going to be stuck. So, the whole point, the whole tip about this is be precise, only answer what is being asked. All right, everyone. In the end, I want you to be honest, have a positive attitude, and always have a hope. Today I'm going to give you another interview tip, and that is know the names or remember the names. To get into more detail, every time you start an interview process, whether it's a phone interview or it's an in-person interview, the hiring manager or people who are actually in the interview panel will introduce themselves. Your job, and this is a great tip, is to write down the names of those people. So if it's a hiring manager's name is John, write it down. And everybody in the panel, whether it's the 3 or 4 people, try to write it down. Now, Maybe it's a little hard for you while you are having a phone interview to actually remember the name and try to match that name with the voice. I understand that. But it's a lot easier to write those names and look at the face of the person and then remember the name with the face. So the reason I tell you this is so important in an interview is every time you answer a question, it is a great idea that you address the person who is asking you that question with the name. So if a hiring manager name is John, you could always say, hey John, thank you so much for the question. I'm glad you asked me that question. Let me give you an example. Let me tell you about this. Try to address people with their names. People love to hear their names. And I'm sure if someone is talking to you and they mention your name a couple of times, automatically you're gonna find that conversation, and you're gonna find that conversation more interesting. You're gonna be more glued to that conversation, that you will feel that this person has given you some importance. So this is my tip. Please try to remember the person's name every time they're introduced. At the beginning of the interview, write it down right there, and throughout the interview course, mention their name again and again. Hello everyone, let's talk about scoring success in the first 5 minutes. What that really means is hiring manager can form an opinion of you in the first 5 minutes. As you walk in, you sit down, you start talking. The very first 5 minutes are the most important ones when the hiring manager decides whether you are the right fit or not. Then throughout the course of the interview process, whether it's a half an hour or an hour, they will find ways to support their first 5 minute decisions. Unless you really do something miraculously different that would change their first 5 minutes opinion. So remember that saying that first impression is the last impression? Yes, it actually works the same way in the interview process as well. So there are a few things I want you to know as how you could score big time in that first 5 minutes. Let's talk about a few points. Number one, I want you to know is you have to show up at the job interview site 15 minutes before the job interview. So you have enough time, you could go there, you could sit down, prepare everything that you need, even you have to revise or rehearsal in your head, you could do that. Imagine if you're getting there like right at time or 5 minutes after, you're already nervous, you're late, you know that people are waiting for you, and how much impactful it could be on your confidence. So be there 15 minutes before, or if you are calling in or dialing in, please make sure to dial in at least 3 to 5 minutes before. So you're ready as soon as everybody joins on the call, you're ready to be there and answer all the questions they have. The second thing is about dressing well. Yes, you don't want to see anyone coming to you for a job if you have a business to get a job if they're wearing a draggy clothes, or even like jeans, a baggy jeans or shirt sticking out, right? So similarly, it works the same way for everyone. Besides, if you're not wearing properly, people will think or take offensive of that. So make sure you dress properly. Third thing is do a firm handshake. When you go in, be confident, shake the hiring manager's hand or everyone in the panel. Well, also, once I read in the book that every time you are shaking someone's hand and you want to give respect to that person, put his or her hand on top. So it's like this. Instead of going like that, do it like this. So put their hand on top of your hand. If you want to do it, great. If not, even a solid, good shake hand should give them a message that you're confident. Then going in with the fourth one is going in with energy and enthusiasm. You gotta have that. You gotta be very excited about your interview. Then moving on, having a positive attitude, and of course, the smile on your face. Every time I look at someone, I see that person's face, and I could actually make out a lot of things of that. So how would you see me if I make my face like this? Not right, not good, right? As opposed to this. Makes a huge difference. Even a smile conveys 1,000 words of a person's personality. So make sure you have that smile, you have that positive energy. And as soon as you go in, this is the last tip I'm giving you. As soon as you go in, you have to thank everyone, especially the hiring manager. And if there are more people in the panel, please do thank everyone for giving you the opportunity for being there today and meeting with them. That's very important. As soon as you go in, when you're shaking hand, just tell them, hey, I just wanted to tell you, Bob, I'm really, really thankful that you gave me this chance to be here to talk about myself for this interview. Great. If you do all these things, I'm telling you, you're going to win people or hiring managers' heart in the first 5 minutes, and you're going to do big time. Big scores, and that's what is going to matter, and they will remember you throughout the process, and they will enjoy every conversation. Please remember that if you have questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Today I'm going to give you a quick tip on interview skills, and that tip is to have a nice and good smile on your face. Yes, smile matters a lot when you are going through the interview process, and trust me, it does wonders. It has worked for me many times in the past when I'm actually sitting in front of people, in front of the interview panel, and having that big smile on my face. Even actually, I have heard from people when I was hired, and I have heard a few months later, then one of the biggest reasons for them to hire me was me having that smile, and that shows my positive attitude. So that's my advice to you as well. Every time you actually go on site, in-person interview, have that smile. Also, if you are doing a phone interview, then even the smile or the way you talk can actually shows your positivity in your conversation. So bring that in as well. A lot of time I talk to my friends as well who actually conduct interviews, and I ask them, how's the interview go, or which person would you rather hire? They always tell me, hey Imran, I would rather hire a person who has a positive attitude, having that smile on the face, than a person who actually knows everything and has such a bad attitude and that boring face, and that will give negative energy to everyone. Yes, you don't want it to be surrounded by people who emits negative energy, right? You want to have friends with those people who have a positive attitude, who are smiling, who gives happiness to everyone, right? The same way works in a corporate environment. So please remember this tip, be positive, and the way you're going to be positive is showing that positivity on your face and having that nice smile when you are having that interview. All right. And always in the end, as I tell everyone, please be honest, be positive, and always have a hope. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to share with you a tip on interview skills, and that is storytelling. Did you know storytelling is a very powerful tool that you could utilize in your interview process? People do personate and relate to your stories when you add your stories when you're answering a question. In the past, when people didn't have digital media, for example, theaters or movies or TV, they would actually go to storytellers or hire the storytellers and listen to the stories from them. Even today, when people actually bored, they actually want to hang out with people who are a good storyteller. I'm sure you want to hang out with your friends who are a good storyteller, right? That's a power of storytelling. Now, if you want to enhance more on storytelling, I would recommend you to go online. There are tons of articles, tons of videos out there that will actually tell you or guide you to be a good storyteller. What I could tell you, a couple of points that you should focus on. Number one is your story doesn't have to be funny. As long as your story supports what you have written in your resume, or what actually tells everything about yourself, the kind of person you are, that's a perfect story. Another thing is, I don't want you to make up a story. If you're using someone else's story, I want you to give them the credit that this is that person's story. Now, another great tip I could give you about storytelling. Now, you're probably thinking, oh my God, I really don't have a story to tell. Now, how can I remember a story? How can I remember a story from the past? I understand people sometimes are not good in storytelling. That is perfectly fine. Now, here's a really good way of remembering that. I want you to go through your resume. I want you to read every line that you have written in your resume. And then try to remember, do you think that there is a story behind that line? If not, that's fine. Go to the next line. Then try to remember, is there a story behind that line? And I'm sure by the time you're going to be done with your resume, you're going to have at least 2 or 3 stories. Another thing that I could tell you, read through the job description and try to identify all the keywords. For example, I'm sure you're going to find keywords like team player, right? Or I have a few of them written here like leader, result oriented, honest, problem solvers. Look at these keywords and then think of them. When was the time when I acted as a leader? Remember that story. When was the time when I actually produced a result? When was the time when I acted as a team player? Maybe not in a corporate world. Maybe you were in a college and you were given a project from your professor to work on it together. I'm sure everybody went through this. That's a story again. So bring those stories. Even if you help someone in your life and you went through so much hardship, put that in there. It shows that you're a really hardworking person. So that's my tip for today, that you have to add your story. And where you should add a story, the very first moment that you're going to get to put your story and present it is when they're going to ask you, tell me about yourself. That's a huge opportunity for you. Please add a couple of stories there. Also, during the interview process, when they ask you questions back and forth, you could always say, oh, by the way, that reminds me of a story when I was in college. By the way, that reminds me of the time when I was working for ABC company and I had to go through the same process. Storytelling. People will get entertained, they will glued to what you have to say, and they're going to find it very, very beneficial when they have to make a decision. So that was my tip. I hope you really like it, and I hope it really helps you. Hello everyone, this is your mentor, your guide, Imran Afzal. Again, I'm so glad that you are here. Today I'm going to give you another interview tip that I think that is really going to help you. And that is understanding the job requirement. It's by listening to the hiring manager when they are actually having the interview with you. So what's usually happen is every time you start an interview process, the hiring manager will go over the company, how the company is doing, what's the actual nature of the company, what's the group, what the group they're working in, or what's the department they're working in. Then they're gonna tell you about the actual job requirement or the job description, or what exactly they're looking for. Now this is where, and this is the key, that where you have to listen very, very carefully. My recommendation to you, even if you are actually in front of the people or on the phone, write it down. While the person is telling you that they are looking for this type of person, for example, They could say, hey, we are looking for someone who is really good in inventory management. We're looking for someone who could keep track of all the stationery. We're looking for someone who could send invitations to people for the events that we manage. Or we were looking for someone who's really great with designing the flyers. So very, very brief summary of the job description that a hiring manager is going to go over. And right away, I want you to write down everything they're going to talk about. 3, 4 points, main points. Now, you wrote it down. Now, when do you have to bring those points? Remember, after this is done, they're going to ask you this question: tell me about yourself. Right here, when you're going to start telling the person, the hiring manager, about yourself, you're going to go over your achievements, the company that you work for now and that you worked for previously, any other achievements or quantifiable facts that you're going to mention. Once you're done mentioning everything about yourself, right at that point, mention that I noticed that in the job description, or the person that you're looking for can do the inventory management. I tell you one thing, I'm really good with inventory management. I have almost 7 years of experience, and I have used many different tools to actually do this. And I have designed so many flyers because I noticed that you mentioned that. Now, right away, the hiring manager is going to say, oh man, you're great, because you're not just here to tell me about what you really do. You're really listening to what the job requirement is. You're really listening to what I have to say. You're not just here because you really want a job. You are here because you think that you qualify for the job. So that tip is really important. I really hope this tip will help you when you actually go out there, apply that tip. When you are having an interview with a hiring manager, whether it's a phone interview or whether it's on-site interview, where you're sitting in front of the hiring manager or with a whole bunch of people, a whole panel, there is one thing that you really need to know, and that is understanding the question. What this really means is, a lot of time, even I have done that in the past, which I have tried to improve on it, is not understanding the question. So before you even go ahead and answer any question that is being asked, please make sure you completely understand the question before answering it. If you have a doubt that you might not have heard the question right, please go ahead and ask them to repeat the question. Now, don't even think for a single second that you're asking them to repeat a question might have a negative impact. No. That will show that you are a person who listens. So once they repeat it, now here's another thing. If you're still having a problem understanding the question, you should rephrase in your own word. Is that what you're asking? Or do you mean that this is what you're asking about? Perfectly fine. So rephrase it in your own word. But again, the point that I'm trying to make is, just don't listen to something that you don't understand and make up in your mind, oh, this question is probably that, or he or she meant this, or asking that. And then what happened is, you answer the question. Number one is you answering you answering to the wrong question. Second, it will show them that you are not a good listener. So please, it is perfectly fine to ask them to repeat or rephrase the question. At the end, let's say you tried all these methods and still you don't understand the question. Please tell the hiring manager, I do not understand question. Can we please move on, or can we skip this question? That is perfectly, quite honestly, is fine. You're not going to have any problem with that. So that's a quick tip that I wanted to give you. Hopefully, it will really help you during your interview. If you want to learn more about Linux, check out my best-selling course on Linux at udemy.com,
Or you could go straight to my website, utclsolutions.com, and you will find the exact same course there.